U.S. President Reagan needed money to fund an unjustified war against Nicaragua, but was forbidden to do so by Congress. So U.S. arms were illegally sold to Iran through Israel and South Africa, and the proceeds went to the Nicaraguan Contras. This allowed Reagan to get around Congress to support a campaign of kidnap, rape, torture, and murder for which the U.S. was convicted by the World Court for unlawful use of force. In other words, state-sponsored international terrorism. The ruling was ignored. Khomeini died in 1989, shortly after the war ended. He promised democracy, but essentially had become the next dictator. Although he improved literacy and much-needed health care for the masses, he also imposed censorship, violently crushed political dissent, and attacked women's rights. Instead of the Savak, the people now had the Revolutionary Guard to fear. Since then, Iran has been an oppressive theocracy. Khomeini was replaced by Khamenei, who remains supreme leader to this day.
Yes, I think Iranian government is dangerous. It's dangerous mainly to people living inside Iran. They've been oppressing people. The current government is kind of a dictatorship, and they've done a lot of bad things to Iranian people.
Iran is an Islamic republic that suppresses women. It suppresses movements for free speech. It's an oppressive government, and it is absolutely. And U.S. intervention is going to make it worse. It's made it worse in Iraq, it's made it worse in other contexts, and it's absolutely going to make it worse in Iran.
The United States does not oppose the Islamic Republic because it's reactionary or repressive. All we need to do is look across the Persian Gulf to Saudi Arabia and understand that the United States has no trouble supporting reactionary, oppressive theocracies as long as they do the U.S.'s bidding. And we've seen in Iraq, did the United States bring freedom and liberation to Iraq? No, they succeeded in killing an estimated 650,000 people, making refugees out of 3 million, destroying the country, and actually strengthening the hand of Islamic fundamentalist Shias who want to impose their own theocracy in Iraq. So it's increased the nightmare of the Iraqi people. The Islamic Republic is a repressive regime. I was in Iran in 1979 and 1980 and saw this Islamic theocracy being consolidated, and many of my friends were killed or tortured, put in prison because they were secular opponents of both imperialism but also of religious rule. Certainly women are being mistreated and held in a subservient position. Science is undermined by this sort of theocratic rule. Now, having said that, so this isn't a regime that I like, but having said that, I'm still fully opposed to any U.S. attack on Iran. The fact that the Islamic Republic is a reactionary, repressive regime does not give the United States the right to attack Iran. The future of Iran should be determined by the Iranian people.
Iran has a democracy at the grassroots, and it's very strong. It's just like coal under the ashes right now, that it's basically it's about to become a massive movement. And interesting is that the women's movement is very strong against inequalities in Iran and also against gender apartheid. The student movement is very strong. The workers movement also is going very strong, getting unions, and they basically intellectuals, writers, poets. It's so vibrant that you don't see this kind of grassroots movement for democracy in any other neighboring country. So once the threat of bombing Iran comes from administration at this stage, it basically allows radicals that are basically very small percentage that holding to the power to clamp down on all these movements. And what it does happen that with threat of bombing, the movement stops, and the repression becomes much larger and does not allow this grassroots to develop properly.
What I'm uncertain about is how we can best help people inside Iran to force the government to be more democratic, and how we can facilitate that process. That's a very difficult question. I know different people have different answers and different thinkings, but you don't want to let the government in Iran to have a free hand to do whatever they want against people. But on the other hand, democracy is not something that you can force from outside. And if there's a very strong democracy movement inside Iran, so if it looks like that people from outside are helping them, then the government will seize that opportunity to make it look like just foreign puppets, and it will crack down on them. So you cannot directly support them. But so that's the difficult question, and how best we can do something to help people inside Iran.
Khomeini did form a new kind of government with some elected offices, but still with himself as the supreme leader, the head of the government. There is an elected parliament called the Majlis and an elected president, but their democratic functions are limited, as all candidates and all laws must be approved by the Guardian Council. The Guardian Council has 12 members, and half are clerics appointed by the supreme leader, who has the final say on all important matters. The job of the Guardian Council is to guard the country against efforts to undermine the ideals of the revolution. They normally prevent any reformers from being elected, but the strength of the democracy movement culminated in 1997, and a reformer was elected.
Only Khatami!
From 1997 to 2005, a reformer named Khatami was the president of Iran. 70% of Iran is 30 years old or younger, due to Khomeini's urging people to have children at the start of the revolution, and losing many of the older generation in the Iran-Iraq War. He won the election, in large part due to support from women and the country's youth, who pressed their parents to vote for him. He wanted to return rights to women, and he rejected the idea that the Muslim world and the West must have a clash of civilizations, promoting instead a dialogue among civilizations. And like the US, the reformers can be undermined by more powerful interests. Khatami's reforms mostly failed, and when the conservatives used political assassinations of students and writers to destabilize the reformists, the people took to the streets in protest, and Khatami's response was silence and deference to the conservatives. His supporters began to turn against him. Khatami's reformist presidency was also undermined by the US, despite gestures of goodwill towards America from the people and the government of Iran.